Welcome back to CrimsonCast. I'm Grace Ybarra. That is Galen Clavio, and we have to talk hoops this week, right?
We got
It is the hoops week,
and we got to talk non-Indiana hoops because Indiana.
It's a glorious little break for us.
I know we needed a little bit of a breather after the season, and no Crown or NIT to talk about either with
Yay.
Indiana. I know. I'm very pleased about that actually myself. So yes, we're going to talk brackets, and I mean, last week it was all about who's going to get in. Now it's about what happens now that they're in. And I'm always excited to talk that. And we already had some games last night. We had the play-in. Did you watch any of those? I know you were like fully into St. Patty's Day festivities.
Yes, I was watching the Texas NC State one. I can't say what was the other one.
Howard
UMBC.
Yeah.
I wasn't really tuned into that. But Texas NC State was like crazy, but in a really bad way.
That's a really good way of putting it, Grace.
Like,
yes.
It wasn't good basketball, but it was like, oh my God.
It felt like it was just in a complete slog for about 38 minutes.
And my favorite thing was, I don't know if you saw this, the Xavier kids that drove up to Dayton to chirp Sean Miller.
That was the second favorite thing I saw. My favorite was Sean Miller nearly murdering his assistant coach on the sideline for running out on the floor. What? This is 2 games in a row that something untoward happened at the end of the game. You had that where there should have been a technical foul for the running out. And then you also had in the previous game a timeout being given to Howard after UMBC had already inbounded the basketball. In the Sean Miller Texas assistant thing, he has an actual name, but I'm not going to look it up. That's like the 3rd or 4th incident of people running onto the court at times they're not supposed to, because it happened a bunch of times during conference tournament week as well.
Yeah, it specifically happened in that SLU Dayton game.
Right.
And that caused a whole uproar. And I remember people talking about it on Twitter, like every single coach needs to show their entire team this video and be like, this is not, like, I do not care what happens. You're not doing this. Because this team got really lucky. There was no tech called. And then Texas turns around and does it.
Well, but I don't know if they should stop them doing it because nobody seems to be calling technical fouls on these things. So maybe it's not a real rule.
That's what I thought, but there shouldn't be an assistant in the middle of the floor, even if 4 NC State players are calling for a timeout. Like, you're still entering.
You are arguing the rules and how they should be enforced. And I completely agree with you. I'm saying they don't seem to be getting enforced. It's like speeding. How many times have you sped in the last year? And how many times have you gotten pulled over and given a ticket for it?
0. Well, I've sped, but I haven't gotten pulled over.
Grace is just setting the cruise control at the
60 only.
Yeah.
But no, it's a good point.
Also, nobody likes it when the rules are enforced all the time. Actually, speaking of speeding, it's like those speed cameras that Indianapolis put up on the northeast side, where it's like it doesn't matter what was going on. You're just getting something in the mail. So this is the problem with these rules. And I don't know if there's anything that's enforced less than the don't leave the bench when you're not supposed to rule, except traveling being enforced on Purdue's post players. That's about it, or really any guards in the Big Ten either. I don't know if you've seen all those Trey Kaufman-Renn videos that have popped up lately.
No, I haven't. I don't think we have the same feed in that regard.
I will start forwarding them to you.
I don't know if I need them, but okay.
Well, it would be good for you to at least be conscious of these.
Well, yeah, at least now that I'm going to go see it in person, I can be aware of what to look out for.
You'll get a lot of Trey Kaufman-Renn just dancing instead of dribbling the basketball. It's a fascinating approach to basketball. But
well, I want to talk about what you're wearing first. I've got like my March Madness quarter zip on. I just went generic.
I like it. It's nice, but it's not as nice as the Strut of Destiny shirt. So as you know, St. Peter's had one of the greatest runs through the bracket.
Did they?
They did. They specifically for Indiana fans, I've often said, and I need to do this, and maybe you should do this with me. I want to establish a scholarship fund at St. Peter's and name it specifically after their run through the bracket, where they knocked off Kentucky and knocked off Purdue and made it all to the way to the Elite Eight. That was the Strut of Destiny, a shirt that forever memorializes that is located on the Home Field Apparel website. This narrowly beat out the other shirt that I was going to wear. Do you know which one that was?
No.
The Let's Shock the World Fairleigh Dickinson t-shirt, which is also available on the Home Field Apparel website, commemorating Fairleigh Dickinson's 63-58 defeat.
Are you going to have to buy a Queens shirt soon?
I think I'm going to. Queens, notably in New York, according to Oscar Clough, right?
Look, I'm gonna give that guy a pass. I feel like that was rough because he's Australian. Like, I'm sorry. If you ask 90%, like 90% of Americans would tell you Queens is in New York.
That's fair. I think I at one point thought that it was like, why are they in the whatever conference they're in now?
And then I'm like, oh yeah, I do remember Charlotte was the Queen City, so that makes a lot of sense.
It does. You're right. So I think there will eventually be Queens shirts on Home Field Apparel. I'm certain there'll be an LIU shirt at some point. Thank you. But it's not just the big brands at Home Field Apparel. It's the little guy. You can buy all of these March Madness themed shirts. They come up with new ones. The Shred of Destiny shirt, I think, came out like a week after that run ended. The Fairleigh Dickinson shirt came out immediately. Get to Home Field Apparel. Follow them on social media. They will have amazing drops throughout March Madness that you need to take advantage of. They've got some great new shooting shirts out as well. Use the code HOME23. Get 15% off your first order.
Okay, so we need to break down this bracket.
We really do.
How do we want to do this?
So I think we're just going to go region by region and talk about each of the games. Some of these games are not close. Some of these games are really competitive. And then I think we should have some best bets at the end because there's kind of two ways to do this.
Yeah, because we're so good at betting.
Well, right. I mean, if nothing else, it'll be just a fade fest, which I'm fine with. You know, you are not that bad at betting.
I'm not as bad as you.
I am horrific at it. So this will at least be good counter, evidence for people who want to place bets. We'll also just pick the bracket straight up and talk about who we're going to have in our Final Fours. So I'm going to let you choose what region we want to start in.
Let's go top left. I like starting top left, so the East.
Okay, and before we do that, we did have a question that came in on Twitter. We had a couple of them, actually, that maybe we'll tackle first, and then we'll dive into the bracket. So HCA 53 asked, any advice on the best comparison points to use when the team seeds and predictive metrics are relatively even? Roster, age, height, three-point field goal percentage. What do you use when you try to guess when you've got two teams that look very similar to each other? Like, which one do I want to pick to move forward?
It's pretty much vibes for me, which is not, don't joke. I have an example of a vibes pick later that I will explain, but like sometimes I just go gut. I try not to look into it that much when things look pretty similar on paper. And I usually lean like toward the conferences I'm more familiar with. Like if I have, I don't know, SEC versus someone else, I usually like lean SEC because I watch that more than another conference. But I don't have any good advice, to be honest.
I'll say this, there's so many different variables that you can try to decide upon on this. And, for me, what I generally try to aim for is there a big difference when you go to the advanced metrics? And this is where Ken Pom or Torvik or BPI can be helpful. Like, is there a team that is significantly better on offense or on defense than their opponent? That will oftentimes be where I will land. And in the tournament, I'll generally opt for the team that is better offensively, as long as the other team defensively is not good. And so that solves a lot of problems because ultimately you have to score, and you have to score when it matters, like we saw last night in that Texas NC State game. But it's tough because I think anything that I could give you in evidence for picking using one metric, I could give you two pieces of evidence that would say, don't do that. So I like what you said. Also, like, dudes help. If there's two teams and one of them has more dudes than the other athletically, that's why the power conference teams make it through more. It's not that the mid-majors are necessarily worse teams, but teams don't always win games at the end. Individual players win games at the end.
I think like a really easy example of that too is like off the bat in that East region where you have Ohio State, TCU, and those two teams stack up like very, very evenly on paper. And then that's where I go with vibes. Like I've watched Ohio State way more than I've watched TCU. But you talk about a dude, you have Bruce Thornton. Like that is a dude that kind of screams have a breakout March Madness game.
Which is great for him since this is his first one, right?
Right. You know, he scored what, 2,400 something career points at Ohio State, and none of them have been in the big dance.
Glad he's finally getting his shot. But yes, dudes, especially dudes who are guards.
Yes, guard play is like reigns supreme.
Yeah. And so that would be my advice. And if we're wrong on that, try again next year is generally what I say.
Yeah, we're sorry.
Yeah, it's about, but a lot of it does change from year to year because the matchups change from year to year. But yeah, let's dive into the East, and we'll start off with Duke Siena. This is not a close matchup at all. Duke right now favored by 28, and I mean the big question for me in this one is always just like, why do we persist with this idea that these are good I wish they would stick all these at like noon and give me the rest of the games later on in the day.
Yeah, but if they didn't persist with these matchups, you wouldn't have your Fairleigh Dickinson shirt.
Correct. That's what makes it confounding, right? And that's the funny thing. Like 28 in this game seems like a big number. I think Purdue was like a 34 or 35 point favorite on Fairleigh Dickinson, and like by every number, they should not have even been close. And that's the reason I wanted to say that, and I'm glad you said that in response, is that that's the great thing about basketball, is that you never know on a given night. Somebody might just have a terrible night or not decide to throw it to their 7'3" center who led the nation in efficiency in scoring. Like you can't predict these things.
It happens.
Ohio State, TCU, the 8-9 in this game. All these games taking point. Geez. All these games taking place in Greenville. I finally said it. So your thoughts on this one? Ohio State comes in 2.5 point favorite. TCU had some big wins this year. Ohio State got hot late, however.
Yeah, I'm also when I say vibes too, I mean like trends going into March. So Ohio State getting hot in the latter part of their season, especially how closely they played Michigan in the Big Ten tournament, that gives the edge to Ohio State, in my opinion, because a team that's the opposite, like downtrending, is like Nebraska to me. So you don't want a team to be playing not their peak basketball at this time of year, and I feel like Ohio State is close to their peak basketball right now.
Yeah, Ohio State is, they're I actually think they are undervalued in this game. If you look at recent results, they should be like a 7 or 8 point favorite. They're only a 2.5 point favorite. This is actually one of my best bets, would be to take Ohio State minus 2.5. I think it was this to me. Now, this is where I worry because you've got a coach who's never been in the NCAA tournament and a bunch of players who have never been in the NCAA tournament, and Jamie Dixon and his players have. But I'll go with Ohio State in this game.
I like it. I like that we're both doing this. I think we might split opinions on the next game, though. We'll see.
St. John's in Northern Iowa.
Yeah.
So you got to see Northern Iowa in person.
Yes.
So I'm assuming you like them as a result of that.
Yeah. So my big reasoning for this, first of all, was last year when I went to Arch Madness, Drake won, and that was Bennett Sturts, McCollum. And I remember seeing them in person. I was like, I like this team. I think they're going to win a game in March Madness. And I told myself, no matter what, like pick Drake to win. I get the bracket and they play Mizzou, and I'm like, like let the stupid Mizzou bias get the best of me. And then I didn't trust my gut, and Drake ended up winning, and I feel stupid about it. So I told myself, I don't care what happens. I'm picking Northern Iowa this year. But that being said, their head coach, Ben Jacobson, I believe, has been in March Madness 4 times in his 20-year career at Northern Iowa, and he has won a game in 3 of those 4 appearances.
They're a really compelling pick, and if I had been at Arch Madness like I wanted to be, I probably would be feeling the same thing you are. I can't get over though. St. John's is really underseeded. They should be like a 3.
Why are they at 5? They just won the Big East.
This becomes a theme through a lot of this bracket that really annoys me, is that there are so many good 12 and 13 seeds, and they all are matched up against exactly the wrong team for them. This is like people taking bad dating advice and like dating like exactly the wrong personality profile. Northern Iowa against any of the other 5 seeds, I'd be like, yes, I want to pick them. I might actually not even pick them against the spread in this game because it's a 9.5 for St. John's. St. John's is real good and really athletic and just kind of the wrong match for UNI.
And they play a very different style of basketball. St. John's is so fast and Northern Iowa slows the pace down so much. So something's going to have to give. But I'm going to go with the Panthers for fun.
I like it. Good. Let's go to the other game. These are both in San Diego. That's the one other thing I'll say about St. John's. Really long flight going from New York to San Diego.
Yeah, they're not used to it in the Big East. They don't have schools all over the country.
And the furthest west you're going is Chicago. Going to California is a little bit of a trek, but
not that Iowa is much closer, but
it's a good point. But I'm not picking Northern Iowa. So, all right. Now I'll give you one that I really have my eye on is Kansas versus Cal Baptist, the 4-13 game.
And Cal Baptist was the school that won on that missed dunk, right?
Yeah, Utah Valley should have at least taken it to overtime, and the poor dude blew the dunk. And
happens.
So Cal Baptist is in. The thing about this one that's interesting, so this is a 14.5-point spread. Kansas should win easily, and yet the way these two teams have played in the last month, if you just took that in the projection, Kansas would be favored by 2. So I don't think Kansas is going to lose, but I do think Kansas is way overvalued here. And so I think Cal Baptist is going to keep this close, but I still like Kansas to win.
Okay, I like that. I didn't know that, but I agree Kansas wins.
All right, bottom of the bracket. So one of the games that has gotten a lot of talk as far as potential upsets, Louisville and South Florida. What are your thoughts on this one?
I was looking at the metrics on it, trying to figure out why this was getting so much talk. And every time I found myself still coming back to Louisville. Yeah. I don't know why. Maybe it's because that game I went to with you, Louisville, and I just can't get over that if they can shoot like that, they can blow anyone out of the gym.
That's the thing. I thought about that game a lot. Like when they play inferior competition, they are very good. But the problem is they're also just very inconsistent. And this is another one where if you look at the last month of competition, you can do this on Bart Torvik, by the way. You can restructure it so it only takes the last month or so. South Florida would actually be favored by a point in this game.
Interesting.
I'm not totally sure if I want to pick South Florida in this one to win. It's a popular pick. Now, they did just see the news. I don't know if you saw this, but Michael Brown is out for this game. And so that's another piece of data to think about. I think I'm leaning South Florida in this one. I'm going to actually take them in it. I don't know if they'll win, but I do think they've got the ability to keep it close, and I just don't trust Louisville totally. If they were playing Indiana, I would trust them. I don't trust them in this game.
And you have to pick an 11 over a 6 too. So you got it out of the way early.
We do have some other options for that a little later.
Don't worry, there's plenty.
All right, let's go to the other game. These are in Buffalo, Michigan State and North Dakota State. Another one where it's I like North Dakota State. I don't like them against Michigan State.
Yeah, I also feel the exact same way, where if they were seeded against another 3 seed, I would like a Purdue of sorts, maybe. But that didn't happen. And I feel like I have to go with the Spartans too. And that's, again, my Big Ten bias, but.
Right. I think that's a reasonable one, though. This Michigan State team, they've had this weird thing. Everybody is convinced that Tom Izzo is this wizard in March. And he historically is. But do you know, last year they went to the Elite Eight. And prior to that, it had been second round loss, Sweet 16, second round loss, play-in game loss. The Izzo magic isn't quite what it used to be when they were making Final Fours, what felt like every 3 or 4 years. But I don't see them really having any problems against this North Dakota State team. Again, just a bad matchup in general.
Right. And we'll get more into this as we get further into the bracket. But I do think I agree with the Izzo magic not being as powerful as it used to be. But I think Michigan State got a pretty easy draw. Yeah. If you look at the bracket, the part of the bracket it's in, obviously, before you get to Duke.
I think they can easily beat either Louisville or South Florida. And then we get to the bottom half of the bracket. We get UCLA and Central Florida. These are in Philadelphia. UCLA has played really well lately. They obviously had a great run in the Big Ten tournament, got to the semifinals there. They play a UCF team who the metrics do not like very much. The one thing here, Grace, this game is in Philadelphia, and it is the exact opposite issue that St. John's has, except it's worse going west to east, as we know.
And, they have a coach that likes to point that out.
Yes. I don't think he's complained about it too much this week, but he certainly complains about it every other time.
Yeah. I don't know. I still lean UCLA.
I do too. I mean, I just think that they're playing really well, and they've got dudes. They've got really high caliber athletic talent on that basketball team. They finally started to show it down the stretch. And I thought what they were able to do, despite missing a couple of guys who it looks like both those guys will be back in the big dance. And so I think that'll be enough for them against Johnny Dawkins' UCF squad. And then our final East region first round game, UConn and Furman. UConn, a team that's kind of gone the wrong direction a little bit. I'm not worried about them losing to Furman, but I do wonder about them covering. They have a 20.5-point spread. It probably should be somewhere between like 16 and 19 points. So there might be a little bit of value there.
I agree. I think UConn handles business, but also seeing Furman gives me flashbacks to that Furman Virginia game.
Oh yeah. I forgot
where they hit that stupid shot. I mean, Virginia can't break the press, hit a stupid shot, Furman wins, and it's like, what just happened? So I wouldn't put it past UConn to have a meltdown, but I don't think they will.
Again, one of the things we've seen in the bracket this year is that the 13, 14, 15, and 16 seeds are just not nearly as good as they were in past years. Last year had the same problem. So we didn't really have big upsets or even particularly close games with our top seeds in any of the regions. I think that's probably what ends up happening here as well. All right. So looking through this region before we move on to the next one. So you give me who you think your Elite Eight is, and then who your Final Four team would be coming out of this.
I have Duke versus UConn in the Elite Eight. That's not really anything groundbreaking, but that is the theme of this bracket, and honestly the theme of this season. And I have Duke in the Final Four. How about you?
I have Duke, Michigan State in the Elite Eight, and I also
you said all that about Izzo.
Well, the thing is, though, it's matchup dependent, which I also said, and I think Michigan State's better than Louisville or South Florida. I actually think UCLA might be a tougher sled for Michigan State, as we've already seen, than UConn at this point. UConn just does not feel like they've got it together. We kind of felt this way about them last year going into the tournament also. And so, yeah, I agree. I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, but hey, that's what they pay me for on these things.
Oh,
right?
I love it.
One other thing, my best bets on this one, like I said, Ohio State -2.5. I really like that. Cal Baptist +14.5. I think is one you should wager on. And then Louisville USF right now, the over-unders at 165. I would heavily jump on the under on that one. I've got that projected at being like 153. So just neither of these teams are scoring that well right now.
Good to know.
All right. Where to next?
Well, okay. I like to go down first. So that would be the South region. I don't know if this is how you fill out your bracket. This is how I do mine.
I just kind of do it in whatever order it happens to be in on the computer screen. Do you do a paper bracket? Okay.
Yes.
I don't actually.
Well, I do the computer one next, but I like to visualize it on paper first.
Got it. I feel like a pariah at this point because I don't feel. Everybody's been like, I love my paper bracket, and I was like, I just like brackets, so they don't necessarily have to be in paper form. I also don't have a printer, which does not help.
I have one at work, so that's nice. It's troubling though when I'm just tapping on my phone. I'm like, oh, do, and I'm like, wait, what did I just do? I don't know. I don't know what happened. At least here I can be like, wait, did I pick a 12 over a 5?
Smart. I like that's probably better on your part than what I do.
Well, we'll see
that's how I end up with like Idaho in the Final Four by accident. So.
Oh my God.
All right, the South. On to the South. So we're starting in this, and we don't actually know who Florida is going to be playing.
I don't think it matters.
It probably doesn't. We have Prairie View A&M versus Lehigh tonight.
Yeah.
And I don't know, there's not much to talk about there, and there won't be much to talk about when they play Florida. Florida's going to wallop them. So we can safely move off of that one. And that gets us to another game that involves a Big Ten team.
Yes.
And actually involves the coach you watched last year at Drake, Clemson versus Iowa.
And I'm not going to pick against Ben McCollum and Bennett Sturts this year.
There you go.
Like, Bennett Sturts is a made-for-March kind of player. And I think they got a good draw in Clemson maybe being the most overseeded 8 that there is. And Iowa's been playing well recently. I don't know. I don't know about you. I feel like Iowa was an easy pick for me here.
It was a less easy pick for me. I think I'm probably going to lean Iowa. I mean, I would argue they haven't finished particularly well, as they've lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of their last 10 or 7 of their last 11. The one thing I worry about, I heard this on another podcast, is that, Bennett Sturts, who you talked about, has played the 5th most minutes of anybody in all of college basketball.
He's been around a while.
Yes.
He's seen some things, D2 and D1.
He's been, yes. And I just worry. I mean, this dude has not, he's not shot the ball that well over the course of the last month. So I'm worried about the legs maybe having gone slightly before this game.
You did some more research than I did.
Well, yes, I did, but it's okay, because I think that oftentimes you can over-research yourself in March Madness picks, and you end up being like, wow, I found the formula. And then you just look like a complete moron after the picks are made. That's been me every year.
Yes.
So if I was you folks, I would actually listen to Grace on every single pick.
I don't know about that. We'll see.
But like this, I will say one thing about this game. This is one of the lowest over-unders of any of the games. This is going to be slow. Neither of these teams like to run. Both of them play murder ball. And Iowa's probably going to win. So, all right.
Okay.
Let's see. Vanderbilt and McNeese. So Vandy obviously had that big run through the SEC tournament. They ended up losing to Arkansas, but they beat Florida along the way. McNeese, this was Will Wade's team before, and it's not anymore. But this is a fun mid-major in McNeese, but a really hot Vanderbilt team.
Yeah, obviously we know not to pick against a former JMU coach. And then with McNeese, this is again a vibes thing for me. That, like, what's his name? The Aura, like, manager kid from McNeese. Do you remember him from?
I remember him. I don't remember what his name is.
Maybe Amir Khan or something. I don't know what his deal was. He left McNeese maybe to go to NC State with Will Wade, and then is now back at McNeese, and he's like Aura farming again. I just, like, the bit is over. That's why I don't want to pick McNeese. Like, he's pissing me off.
Yeah, I think, I mean, look, Vanderbilt's really good, so I don't think it would have mattered even.
No, that's not the only reason.
Right, yeah, but that doesn't help, obviously. And anytime, I think if you've got bad karma going into the tournament, unless you're Duke, where you seem to be exempt regardless of how much bad karma you have, I think that is a contributing factor, because the basketball gods do occasionally watch tournament games, we've learned.
Yeah, you're leaning Vandy then?
I am leaning Vandy. I do like McNeese in this game to perhaps cover, because I think that spread is a little bit too high. I think people got a little too hot on Vandy coming out of the SEC tournament. But no, I think they'll win easily.
Where's that game at?
That is in Oklahoma City.
Oh, yeah, at the Paycom. Someone was tweeting pictures of the Paycom Center today, and I got PTSD.
Why?
From the Achilles.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Like, they tweeted a picture, and I was like, oh, my God, that's where it happened.
I fortunately have not had the level of psychosis around the Achilles tear that I associate the arena with it, just the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't operate that way. Everything makes me think of it.
Oh man, I'll buy a 6-pack of therapy for you after
Yeah,
this.
just about Tyrese Halliburton.
That's right. Also in Oklahoma City, the 4:13 game in the South, Nebraska and Troy. Trendy upset pick for some people.
Yeah, so I usually fill out like a first like gut instinct bracket the second I see it, just like initially I think. And I was really quick to jump on Troy beating Nebraska. One, because Nebraska just like hasn't been playing well. And then I looked at the metrics and I'm like, I don't think Nebraska, I think they peaked a while ago, but I don't think Troy is the team to do it. So I went with Nebraska. And there's this whole narrative about like they haven't won an NCAA tournament game ever. I think this is the moment that they get the monkey off their back. And then I think they get beat by Vandy.
That all seems reasonable. I will say you're correct in that if you look at the momentum statistic on Torvik, Nebraska has among the worst momentums of anybody in the country right now. Actually, that's off of Haslam. It's not off of Torvik. But yeah, they're 355th in the country in momentum, which is generally bad.
It really reminds me of SLU, where they were just so hot on like these win streaks, didn't lose. And then come February, March, it's like, oh no, this team is not what it was.
SLU, you'll be shocked at their momentum number when we get
I don't want to know what it is.
But the thing is, you're 100% right. Troy is actually really bad for a 13 seed.
So bad. Oh my gosh, both their adjusted offense and defense were in like the high hundreds, right?
Yeah. This is going to be a low-scoring game, but it feels like a game Nebraska is going to be able to control defensively. I think Troy's not a bad pick against the spread, but I think this is easily a Nebraska win. This is another one, though, where I would absolutely say bang the under, because like the over-under right now is at 137.5. And I've got it projected at 126. So
that's good to know.
Yes. All right, let's jump down to our next matchup here, and it is North Carolina and VCU. This one taking place in
Greenville,
South Carolina, which I've been to.
Me too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wouldn't recommend others go, but I've been there.
Yeah, I went for the SEC women's basketball tournament. Did you see like that waterfall thing they have in the middle of the city? I think that's neat.
I agree. If they played the games there.
At the waterfall?
Yes.
The stadium, I was actually just talking about this. Do they have a team that plays there regularly? Like who uses that stadium?
The reason I've been there is I have broadcasted an arena football game from that stadium, which should tell you everything you need to know about their permanent tenant. Yes.
It's not a very interesting stadium. It's not really by anything fun. This is not, I need to stop dogging on Greenville, South Carolina. I liked the city.
Oh, the city's great. Yeah, but it's just an odd place to have a host for an NCAA tournament site, you know?
I agree. And I think obviously that plays into the North Carolina being put there.
Right. 100%. They always find a way to, for all the complaints from certain fan bases about getting to play close to home, somehow both Duke and North Carolina ended up like a very short drive away from where they're at. Yes.
Annoying. Okay. I watched so much A-10 basketball this year, and I don't care that North Carolina is playing in South Carolina. I really like VCU in this game.
I like VCU in this game too.
What's their momentum number? I feel like their momentum's great right now.
So VCU's momentum number right now is 114.
Okay, that's
pretty good. No,
okay. I don't know what that means.
That's 114th out of 360 some teams.
Okay.
Whereas North Carolina's is 351st, and they lost a key player to injury. And if you look at the last month, right now the spread is -2.5 for North Carolina. If you look at the last month only, it should be -2 in favor of Virginia Commonwealth. So, and it feels like Virginia Commonwealth always springs an upset. You know, they went to a Final Four when Shaka Smart was there. I think they won. Did they win a game last year? I want to say they did. I might be wrong on this, but let me look. You've got.
We also talk about dogs too, like dudes. Lazar Djokovic is their best player, and I don't know. I think it's fun that his name is Djokovic, but I've seen him play. He's great, and he's one of those guys that I feel like could also take over in March. And VCU just has the momentum on their side. They're very scrappy, very physical. And if there's a mid-major I like out of this group, it would be VCU.
I will amend what I said earlier. They haven't won a first-round game since 2016, but they've been in the first round.
Yeah.
Yes. So I like them with their shot of getting it done this year. It does feel like this is just an underwhelming North Carolina team. So that's one of my I've got 3 like upset picks that I like. South Florida being one, I think. VCU being one. I've got a third one later.
Okay.
Also in Greenville, Illinois and Penn, we've got Brad versus Fran again, as Fran McCaffrey back at his alma mater after getting dumped by Iowa, taking on Brad Underwood at Illinois. Penn should not have been there. They upset Yale.
That game rocked, though.
That dude went off for 40 in that game. That was amazing. Illinois is real good. Although Illinois has yet to actually win any games that matter, it feels like all season. Well, not all season, but since like December.
They won at Mackey. That matters to us.
That does matter to us, yes. But they've also just lost some random games that they shouldn't, including like in the Big Ten tournament.
They couldn't beat Wisconsin at all this season.
I know. Some teams just have your number, but I don't think Penn's got their number. This is a game Illinois should win pretty handily. I don't like them as 24.5-point favorites. This is another one where I would say Penn at plus 24.5 feels like pretty good value, but this is not going to be a competitive game by any means.
Yeah, I've seen Illinois get up by big and then just kind of let it slip away. So I would agree with plus 24.5 for Penn there. Also, like Fran versus Brad is as fun as you could write it up. Illinois played at the Palestra when they played Penn State earlier this season. And I remember on the broadcast, they kept showing Fran and Brad catching up. And I keep thinking back about how that was just like foreshadowing we had no idea about.
I know. It's amazing how these storylines continue on and connect at the end of the season. This one's pretty straightforward, I think, but it will be interesting to see that matchup. Finally, in the South, we have St. Mary's and Texas A&M in Oklahoma City. St. Mary's really comes across well in most of the metrics. Another team that looks a little underseeded, probably should have been a 6 seed. They take on an A&M team that is weird. I think would be the best way that I would describe them. You got to see them more than I did this year.
They are weird. They're inconsistent, I think is the better word to describe it, but I picked them. I don't know why.
Okay, wow.
Yeah. I don't know. The WCC just always like susses me out a little bit. And Gonzaga, clearly the best team out of the WCC this year. And I think Santa Clara was better than St. Mary's. And I don't know. That was just like a complete vibes pick. I have nothing to back it up. But I see them losing. Where's that? That's in OKC?
OKC, yes. Sorry, same arena.
Yes.
We're getting them out of the way in this region, though. We don't have to deal with any more Oklahoma cities after that. I don't think I've ever heard sus used as a verb.
Oh, yeah. You know, it works in my vocabulary.
No, I love it. I just my wheels are spinning now. Like, okay, I need to figure out how to incorporate that into my daily language.
Yeah.
Houston and Idaho, the 215 in the South. And
I don't think this is going to be close.
It's probably not. Again, big mismatch. I do think this one has the possibility to not be as big of a blowout as it looks on paper, just because I don't think, and this is always the thing with Houston, it's like, can they score sufficiently well to win by the spread margin that is in front of them? And then later, can they keep up with whoever they're playing against? Both of those have been questionable, although last year they made it all the way. And they've got a big incentive in this region, which we'll talk about, to get through these first 2 rounds. But I like Houston here, obviously, but I like Idaho plus 23.5. I think that's a number Houston's going to have trouble getting to.
I agree. I think Houston, no question here. And that big incentive, obviously, is where the Sweet 16 and Elite 8 is. Houston.
Yes. Somehow they're not hosting it, despite it being in the city of Houston. They had Rice hosted.
That happens.
Instead. Yes.
Well, it's the same way that SLU's not hosting here.
Right. But the thing is, Houston was hosting it.
Oh, they switched?
As of like 2 years ago. And then they like basically traded with Rice so that they would no longer host. So it's not even, it's pretty nefarious. I mean, it's also weird. It would be weird if SLU was playing in St. Louis. And
yes.
It's weird that Houston as the 2 seed could potentially be essentially hosting the 1 seed in their own city. So, but all right, give me your breakdown. What do you got for your Elite Eight and your Final Four pick out of this region?
I have a rematch of the national championship, Florida-Houston, but I think this time Houston wins. Obviously, the game's in Houston. Florida's been up and down, and I don't know what to make of them, but I also could see them going back to back, so I just don't have a vibe on it. But I like the narrative of setting up that rematch in the Elite Eight.
People are going to be bored by this, but I had the exact same thing. I had
Good.
Florida versus Houston, and then I had Houston. I wanted to pick someone else to come out of the top of the bracket than Florida. But I feel like, A, we're overreacting to them getting blown out by Vanderbilt. I think everybody's allowed a bad game. The chances of them getting blown out by Vanderbilt again are not much. And I just don't see Iowa or Nebraska having what it takes to knock Florida off.
And there's a good chance Florida got blown out by Vandy because they'd lost the game. It had gotten away from them. They were like, okay, whatever. Like, this game doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Let's chill out. Let's prepare for the ones that do. So I feel the same way about it.
All right, there we go. So where are we going next?
West.
I guessed wrong.
Oh, I go like top left, top right, bottom right.
I just love I'm curious, at what point did you decide that was your order for filling the bracket?
I have no idea. I've been doing this for so long that I think I just stuck with it at some age, and that's just how I do things. Arizona, Long Island.
You want to start with this one?
I love the Sharks. I don't think the Sharks stand a chance.
It's real.
The Wildcats.
This is real lopsided. I mean, Arizona is one of the three teams that, statistically speaking, have the best shot at winning the national championship. And Long Island is probably not the worst team in the field, but they're close. I mean, Boston and Lehigh being in the field helps on that front, or not Boston, Lehigh and Prairie View. But yeah, this one is not going to be close. Not much else to say about it.
No, I think we can just move on to the 8-9.
Villanova, Utah State, another one where I'm confused why this happens all the time. This is an 8-9 game, but it feels like the stronger team is the 9 seed. There's very few times where I'm like, wow, that 8 seed is like significantly better than the 9 seed. In this case, I think Villanova is worse than Utah State.
I agree. I mean, Utah State just won the Mountain West, right?
They did. Yes, they did. Yeah, and the only team out of the Mountain West.
So I will take a conference champion over a team that finished, I forget where, in the Big East because they were kind of forgettable.
The one concern I have here, Grace, and you and I have been on the wrong side of this before.
Good.
Is that the Mountain West historically absolutely sucks.
I forgot about that.
Absent the San Diego State run where they made it all the way to the title game, Mountain West teams just don't fare well in the tournament. Now, the thing is, this game's in San Diego. Utah State has played in San Diego before. Villanova has to travel from Philadelphia to San Diego. So it's everything's lined up for Utah State. I have trust issues with the Mountain West in the field.
I understand those trust issues. That was like the popular thing when these bracket advice people before the San Diego State run would be like, always pick against the Mountain West. And then that happened. So I think San Diego State has gotten rid of that issue for us.
Good. I'll also say this is another good value pick. Utah State's a 1.5 point favorite. You look at recent trends, they should be closer to like a 5 point favorite. So
good to know.
It does make me feel better. Wisconsin and High Point.
This is another trendy upset.
Very trendy. And it's a tough one because High Point, they have 30 wins, and that's great. But they're
against who?
What?
I said against who?
Oh, right. That's the issue. Like there's this metric on Haslametrics called paper tiger factor, which essentially is like, did you play really well against bad competition and less well against good competition? And High Point does not have a good paper tiger factor number at all. Whereas Wisconsin, given the wins that they've got, has a very, very good number there. They are a 10-point favorite. I actually feel like Wisconsin is being undervalued here because High Point is such a trendy upset pick. I think Wisconsin wins this one without a whole lot of trouble.
I agree. I would say if you are thinking about making this your trendy upset, don't. There's better 12-5s out there for you.
We've already talked about a couple of them.
Yeah, there's better. Stay away from it. We've seen what Wisconsin is capable of.
Yep.
I kind of fear for High Point.
Yeah, I do at this point. For the 4-13, these games are in Portland, by the way, not speaking of PTSD.
Oh, the Moda Center. Don't love it. I don't love it.
How's the district? We were going to do this. We might do this next week, where we talk about host cities.
Yes.
And how they are. And you've been to more of them than I have, at least recently. So yeah, Portland as a host city, that location, that gets a big thumbs down from you.
Huge thumbs down. The Moda Center is really not by anything. I also, the credential pickup was like in the basement of a parking garage. Like it could not have made it more difficult to find. It made me so mad. At least like Greenville was annoying, but it was easy to find. You did have to climb approximately like 30 to 40 stairs to get into the media entrance. And I was like, this is awesome for everybody here that is carrying camera equipment.
Right. No service elevator that you could use?
No.
That's a shame.
Well, the stairs were outside of the venue.
It's even worse.
Yeah. And the ramp, if I wanted to go to the ramp, I would have had to walk like halfway around the stadium to get up. It was a whole.
Did they have like disability services in South Carolina?
Not for media members.
Wow. God. Okay. Anyway, Arkansas versus Hawaii in Portland.
Hawaii was one of those teams that was like, oh, I kind of like them. Like I would maybe want to pick them. And then they get lined up with Arkansas. And I'm like, nope.
I know. Well, famously Hawaii, the team that does not help on defense. There's a whole, if you don't watch Hoop Vision 68 on YouTube, I'd recommend it. He does a great job of breaking down.
Do they just take everything straight up? Like,
yeah, they don't
one-on-one?
They don't help at all.
Yeah,
so that against Darius Acuff and the rest of that Arkansas lineup, it's like that's a team built to break you down one-on-one. This seems like this is almost like a perverse joke by the committee. Like, what's the worst team we could match Hawaii up against? And this is what they came up with.
We should add Darius Acuff points over like the player prop is a good bet.
It's a great point, actually. I love that.
Now that you mentioned that they're going to take them just one-on-one every time.
This is another one where this is a rare where I think that Arkansas is under favored. They're 15.5 point favorites in this game. They're 18 point favorites. If you look at things recently, I like Arkansas in this one quite a bit.
Me too.
All right. Down to the bottom of the West, we've got a matchup we just had finalized. This from Portland. So Texas is having to do
the Indiana
here. They're having to go. So keep in mind what happened to Indiana in that game when you're picking this one, as BYU, who has not played well lately. They have struggled down the stretch. It's been rough on them, but they play a Texas team that has also not played well down the stretch and really didn't look that good last night, and now has to travel cross country.
Can you pick no one?
I would love to at this point. But no, we cannot. We have to pick somebody.
I think without the travel, like if we just like a very, very neutral, no external factors, I would take Texas over BYU, especially like looking at the metrics. I didn't realize Texas was as high in KenPom as they are based on the quality of basketball I watched. But now that you remind me of that Portland thing, I'm like, oh no.
Yeah. This is one where it's a 2-point spread in favor of BYU, and I would actually see them winning by quite a bit more. They'll have been acclimated already by this point, and I just don't think Texas is that good. I don't think BYU's good either. This sets up really well for whomever their next opponent will be, which is almost certainly going to be Gonzaga.
Yes.
The 3 seed who plays Kennesaw State. Talk about a mismatch. Kennesaw State, again, not a good 14 seed from a numbers perspective.
Can you bet on a team to make the Sweet 16? Like, could you just go out there and bet like Gonzaga to the Sweet 16 right now? Because I would do that.
I think, don't they have like you can bet teams to the Elite 8? I wonder.
I think so.
Into the Sweet 16. I need to dig into some of the props.
Like how sicko can we get? But looking at this and everything we just talked about, it seems like Zags have like a walk to the Sweet 16.
Yeah, this is one. Now, the numbers here indicate they might be a little overrated in terms of the point spread here. I might go a little on the underside. Kennesaw State has actually played really well lately, but I don't think they're really going to be able to. We saw Kennesaw State in Assembly Hall a couple of years ago, and if that's the level of team that you're playing Gonzaga, it's not really going to work. So let's go down to St. Louis.
Yes, this is my
solid 4 miles from your apartment.
Yes.
Miami and Missouri in this game. It's a 7-10 matchup. What are speaking of vibes, what are the vibes in St. Louis going into this game?
I think really high. Everyone is really excited. Mizzou brought their AD, obviously. He's doing like a whole press tour with St. Louis TV stations, radio stations, like newspapers. They're milking this being in St. Louis. There's watch parties. I mean, there are so many Mizzou grads here in St. Louis, which is rightfully, I guess, pissed off Miami, Florida. But I slid some Miami tweets your way about being mad about the home court advantage, and we were able to rile up.
A lot of engagement came off of that. Thank you, Grace. I appreciate it.
It's just like you forgot that you played a national championship on your own field. And their point was that was very different because that was selected years ago where that was going to be played and they had to win games to get there. Meanwhile, they just threw Mizzou in St. Louis. And it's like, first of all, where do you think, like, have you looked at a map of Missouri? Like, Mizzou is not in St. Louis. It is in the middle of Missouri.
Right.
There are a lot of alumni here, but it's not like it's a quick 20-minute drive down I-70.
It would be like complaining that Louisville got put in Indianapolis.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's how dumb this is. And again, like you said, it doesn't matter if the game you're playing in got selected 6 years ago or last week. It doesn't change the fairness level of anything. So, and look, if you pay attention to the NCAA tournament at all, this stuff happens because the whole idea is to not make teams have to travel all across the country if they don't have to within their seed line. That's all there is to it.
And there was a big point people were floating around that if you are a 4 seed or lower, you are not protected against home court disadvantage. So if I were Miami, I would have simply won games if I didn't want to be put in a disadvantageous situation.
All of that seems reasonable. All that said, what are your feelings on the game? So this is probably the hardest game for me to pick. This is a pick 'em essentially.
Yes.
If you take the last month, this is essentially a statistical dead heat. And even without that, it's at most like a 2-point game either way, according to the computers.
Yeah, I think obviously Malik Renew, we have to talk about him having a really good season for Miami. I think him and Mark Mitchell are going to go. I think they're both going to be really entertaining. Like, this is going to be a very fun game. Mark Mitchell has scored 32 points in 2 straight games for Mizzou, albeit they lost in both of those. But like,
who's counting that?
Yeah. And then Mizzou has a freshman, Trent Burns, who is 7'5", that has recently come in on his own, and it's been very, very good. They've had the pieces. They've been injured throughout the season. So as they've gotten healthier and kind of like meshed better, they can play really, really good basketball. And I've been to 2 bragging rights games at the Enterprise Center, which is the game between Illinois and Mizzou now. And boy, does that place get loud, especially like the Mizzou fans. So I think it could be a big disadvantage for Miami.
It might be. The other thing I will say here is Miami has a young team. Yeah, they've got Malik Renew, and who's the other guy that they've got? Whose name is escaping me right now? Trey Donaldson, who are both seniors. That is a younger team, though. You know, they rely on freshmen as part of their rotation. I would be a little concerned, especially with a first-year coach in the tournament. I'll take Mizzou in this one. It's going to be tight. I think it's going to be one of the more entertaining games of the first round. Maybe not
so late on Friday night.
How late is it?
I believe it's a 9:10 or 8:50 Central tip.
Oh God.
Yeah.
I got to figure out how to stay up for that too.
Me too.
You're going to be working it.
I know, and the first game of the day is at 11:15.
Yes. No, these are long days if you're broadcasting them or doing anything with them. Well,
it'll be fun, but long.
Yes. Finally, the earlier game in that window from St. Louis, Purdue versus Queens of Charlotte. Yeah, I mean, Purdue once lost to Fairleigh Dickinson. They once lost to St. Peter's. They once lost to Arkansas Little Rock. Those were all huge spreads as well. I'm having a hard time seeing this Queens team repeating that same thing, though. And Purdue did have they had a great run in the Big Ten tournament, as we should note.
This is their first year of being D1 eligible, I believe. I don't know. I feel like lightning only strikes so many times.
I think you're right. And yeah, Queens is just not that good of a team.
If it was the 3-14, I would say yeah, because Purdue hasn't lost to a 14 yet, but they've already lost to a 15. It's happened before. It's not probably going to happen again.
One of the rarities, they lost to a 15 not as a 2. It's so hard to do.
Yeah, that is.
They lost to a 15 as a 3. Like the mathematical improbability.
Kentucky already got that out of the way for them, and then they still
to do that as the number of things that had to happen for that to happen boggle the mind. Anyway, all right, West Region. Who you got in the Elite Eight? Who's coming out of this thing?
I have Arizona, Purdue.
Okay, and
I have Arizona coming out of it. I will say Arizona, Arkansas is my Sweet 16 matchup on that side, and I feel like that could be really fun. But we've seen Arizona win tight games in the Big 12 tournament so far, and they're really fun, and their metrics back up everything. So very high on them.
I'm very scared of Arizona because everything looks so good on paper for Arizona. Yes. Their momentum number is good. Their paper tiger factor is good. They have the 3rd best record quality in the country. But it's Arizona, and it's Tommy Lloyd, and they haven't done anything in the tournament really of note under him. But hey, I always have to remind myself, we said the same thing about Baylor under Scott Drew. We said the same thing about Virginia under Tony Bennett. At some point, you start to get it done if you have the right team. I think I would. So mine is Arizona, Gonzaga. I think Gonzaga, Purdue play like 110 to 108 game.
Where is that game?
That game is in. Where is the West Regional Final happening? I should know this.
I can't remember.
Hold on. Now I got to figure this out. I can't believe I blanked on this. Oh, it's in San Jose.
Okay.
So that actually, I think, helps Gonzaga in
for
that.
Sure.
Yes. And doesn't disadvantage Arizona necessarily. But yeah,
I will say I think Purdue got a pretty favorable draw.
Yeah, I mean, I think that whoever wins Miami, Mizzou is probably not going to pose that much of a challenge to Purdue. Gonzaga is very difficult, but Gonzaga also is somewhat untrustworthy when it comes to being in the tournament. Not that Purdue's the most trustworthy of teams by any means. But yeah, I think Purdue has a really good path to get to the Elite Eight. I wouldn't be shocked if they were there.
Do you have Arizona coming out of the West then? Okay.
Yes. All right. Final region, we've got the Midwest, and we start off with Michigan in Buffalo, taking on the Howard Bison. Again, not a lot to say about this one. Michigan is one of the best 3 teams in the country. Howard just played last night. I will say it's a 31-point favorite is Michigan, and I kind of like Howard plus 31, but just be cautious on that, obviously.
Okay, 8-9. Georgia
and SLU. So St. Louis has been the darlings of a lot of people over the course of the season. Unfortunately, they have not played well in the last month at all, Grace.
No, they've lost 4 of their last 8 games. Up until that Rhode Island loss toward the end of conference play, they had 1 loss on the entire season, and it was to Santa Clara, who we'll get to, obviously, on like a last-second buzzer beater. So they played their best basketball like late January, early February, and they're very plagued by slow starts. I know everybody is already talking about the over in this game. I think that line is very, very high.
169.5.
And I'm like, do I be the contrarian that says under? So, I don't know.
So I have some things for you here.
Okay.
I mentioned momentum.
Bad.
There are 366 teams in Division I. St. Louis's momentum number is 365th. Right now.
Terrible.
So bad. Right now, if you projected out based upon the last month, so right now Georgia's a 2-point favorite in this game. If you just took the last month into account, Georgia would be a 16-point favorite in this game. And the over-under of 169.5, there's a couple of different sites. Torvik has this just as a regular, has the over-under projected at 176. So you could be a contrarian. I actually, in this case, I wonder if either team is even going to bother playing defense.
That's fair. We'll see. I don't know. SLU is so live and die by the 3.
Can they play 2 good halves is the question. You've turned me on to this idea that SLU only plays 1 good half of basketball.
Yes, and against Dayton, they played a great first half and then a terrible second half, which was weird because we hadn't seen that yet. But I don't know. I think that's going to be a fun one. Oh, yeah. Can I say that's my pick? It'll be fun.
I don't know if there's a line for that, if we can parlay like fun, but we can try.
Enjoyable matchup.
I like that. It's in Grace's enjoyable matchup metric.
I think I'm going to go SLU just because.
I like it. It's a sentimental pick.
It is sentimental. And like Robbie Avila, like we've been waiting for how long to see him play in March Madness. He got snubbed 2 years ago. He finally gets his moment. I think he's going to leave it all out there. We'll see if he gets help. But
we'll see if he's healthy.
Yeah, the foot was an issue, but he scored 22 in their first A10 tourney game. So I'm like, maybe he's fine. We'll see.
The extra time off will definitely help. I mean, it was the downside of losing that early in the A10 tournament. But if you get a couple extra days, I've never had plantar fasciitis before, but it doesn't sound good.
No, he was downplaying it a ton too.
So, all right, let's go to Tampa, Texas Tech, and Akron. 5-12.
This is popular upset.
Yeah, everybody's fallen back in love with John Gross. He's getting mentioned for power conference jobs, despite if you go back and look at when he did coach at a power conference team, it did not go well. He made the tournament in the first year at Illinois with Bruce Weber's roster, and then they didn't make the tournament again for like 6 years. They're playing a Texas Tech team that's missing arguably their best player. Toppin's been out for a month, and yet they've played very well. They're an 8-point favorite. This is another one where it's like if they were playing a different team, I think I'd like them better. Akron, I mean. But Texas Tech just feels really strong even without Toppin.
I'm going the Zips.
All right.
I like the Zips. And I don't know. But the top, they're obviously fine without Toppin, but it's a factor.
I like your idea here. So
I think it's fun. That one time I went to Portland too, I was in the Akron team hotel, so I had a little soft spot for the Zips.
Yeah, it was zippy there.
It was, and they lost. They had a little kangaroo. Their mascot's like a little kangaroo too.
Right.
It's very cute. Okay, the next game has a lot of implications.
Alabama Hofstra. So it's been a rough week for Alabama.
Yeah.
When I almost texted you yesterday. I was like, because we were musing about why, who was it that got kicked off the roster?
Aiden Holloway.
Aiden Holloway. We was like, why did he get removed from campus? That seems a bit excessive. And then the news broke yesterday morning that he had over 2 pounds of marijuana in his apartment, which was just barely under the amount that you would get charged with drug trafficking for.
It was 2.2 is the drug trafficking number, and he was given 2.1.
Yes.
So I don't know if he actually had 2.1, but that's really close to 2.2.
2.2 is a kilo. Yes. And so that was not ideal. So they've had some distractions. They also they've been a weird team all year, and they play a Hofstra team that, in a rarity, I think is actually a pretty good 13 seed. This is one where I'm heavily considering just picking a straight upset here in favor of Hofstra.
Yeah, I was toying with this one too, but I decided to take Alabama round 1 because I feel like everyone's going to be on them to lose round 1 and then have Akron beat them round 2. That's my compromise.
This is a tried and true method. If I think a team's going to lose in the second round, I might just pick them to lose in the first round, and then everybody's happy. This is a game where I would recommend the under, given that it's already like the current over-under is 159.5. KenPom's got it at 163. They're already factoring some of it in. I think it could even be lower than that at this point. So we can't pick our next game because we don't know what it's going to be yet. We've got Tennessee taking on the winner of Miami of Ohio and SMU. Do you have a pick on Miami of Ohio SMU?
My heart tells me Miami, Ohio, but my brain tells me SMU.
It's kind of where I'm kind of leaning towards Miami of Ohio just because.
Well, the game is in Dayton, so.
Yeah, that's one where, you know, who should be upset? Not Miami fans.
SMU.
Yeah, I mean, it's under an hour to drive from Oxford to Dayton. Have you been to Oxford before?
I have not. Not that Oxford.
Okay. No.
Been to the one in Mississippi, but.
Oh, I thought you were like, I've been to the one in England.
Oh, I haven't actually been to that one. Just one Oxford, and it was Mississippi.
It was Oxford, Mississippi, yeah.
I've heard fun things about Oxford, though.
Yeah, I've heard some fun things as well. We keep seeing that bar that they have in Oxford. It's in every clip where there's something important going on. I'm probably leaning SMU just because they're just better on paper than Miami. Either of those teams is likely going to lose to Tennessee, who, even though they haven't had a great year, they seem like the team that will beat whoever's worse than them pretty handily.
Right. I have my paper bracket in pen, and I just already wrote in Tennessee.
Smart. So, the other game in Philadelphia, Virginia taking on Wright State, and again, another one where this feels like a mismatch. Just Wright State's they're nice, but they're just not that good compared to what Virginia is.
Yeah, Virginia played very well against Duke in the ACC tournament title game. And I don't know anything about Wright State really besides the numbers, and I'm leaning Virginia.
Another conference that just does very poorly in March Madness, the Horizon League.
Except for the back-to-back years in 2010 and 2011.
Well, yes, that was a while ago. With a team
that was an asterisk.
No longer in the Horizon League. Yes. All right, let's go to our final subregion, but back to St. Louis.
Yes.
So Kentucky, have there been already a lot of visible Kentucky fans in St. Louis?
So I haven't gone outside today yet. I will let you know. I think I'm going to go. It's nice. I'm going to go to the zoo. I want to see. I'll like tally how many fans I see from other teams because this is a popular attraction for people like coming into town. So I'm gonna keep tabs on it. I think between Kentucky, Iowa State, Purdue, and Mizzou, like there's going to be a lot of traffic.
There's going to be. I guarantee I could tell you which of those four fan bases is likely to be the most obnoxious, though.
Is it the one we're currently talking about?
Almost certainly.
Well, I was talking to Cam Drummond, who covers Kentucky, and he was like, yeah, the entire Kentucky media corps is going to be at this game, which makes sense, right? But he's like, don't even like try bother going into the open locker room for Kentucky if you want anything because it's just going to be wall-to-wall people.
Wild.
And I'm like, I don't really need anything from Kentucky, so I don't care. But I might go in just to like visualize what that media corps looks like because that sounds horrible.
Ooh, let me know how that. You could do like a special report for us, like just evaluating the Kentucky media corps.
I'm also getting requests from stations in Nashville and Charlotte right now to help them out on their coverage. So I will report contrasting like Queens locker room versus Kentucky locker room and get back to you on that.
I like that. Also, you're going to the zoo. Will you be able to get the zoo to let you reenact some of what the St. Louis Billiken mascot did?
No, I want to do that.
Yeah, so
the Billiken was like playing basketball with the animals, basically.
They had a basketball in the snake enclosure. They had one. There was some group of baby animals that I didn't even know were there that It was a nice video, and I was like, I'm surprised they didn't ask you to do it.
I know, I'm a little offended. I have done media coverage at the zoo before, so it's not. It was a NASCAR event.
I want to know about this, and I don't at the same time.
You know the watermelon man? I cannot remember his name. He like smashes a watermelon whenever he wins.
Gallagher?
No.
Oh,
I can't remember his name. They had him throwing watermelons to the hippos.
That's actually pretty cool.
It was really cool.
Nice. Well, speaking of this game, this is actually very similar to the Miami-Mizzou game. Very close.
7-10.
7-10. An underachieving higher seed in Kentucky and a Santa Clara team that I think is probably being slept on. These teams are very close to each other in KenPom, and in the most recent game projection, Santa Clara would actually be favored by a point, which makes Kentucky -3 seem, I don't know, maybe not the way to go.
I went Santa Clara.
I went Santa Clara too.
Yeah. I mean, I think there are going to be a lot of Kentucky fans. Another important thing to note, this is an 11:15 a.m. tip on Friday.
God.
11:15.
Which means it's a 9:15 a.m. body time tip for Santa Clara.
Yes. But I do think they get to town today.
Well, still.
Yeah. They'll like, I don't know. I think they practice earlier tomorrow too. So like they just have them on an earlier schedule.
Godspeed. I hadn't thought about that until we started talking about it. Now I might have to revisit my pick. But for the moment, I'm going to stick with the Bronx.
I'm also wary just of like the amount of Kentucky fans because it'll be a very heavy Kentucky environment.
That's true. Although that's the case every year.
True.
Where Kentucky plays. And, keep in mind, like Kentucky, I mean, they made to the Sweet 16 last year, but then the previous 3 years under Calipari, they lost in the first round, the second round, and the first round.
They find a way.
They always, it's amazing. They are not very consistent with this stuff.
The last game.
Where we got Iowa State, we got Tennessee State. This does not, again, feel like a particularly close one. Iowa State really impressed people in the Big 12 tournament. They haven't played that tremendously great lately. They're actually, I think, pretty overvalued, but Tennessee State does not really promise much of a threat here.
No, I don't think the OVC is producing like the top talents in this bracket, and Iowa State has been just so impressive all year long. I didn't really think twice about this one.
It's fair. All right.
And this is another situation where I had vibes. My Elite Eight, Michigan, Iowa State.
I have the exact same one.
The vibes, which again, this makes no sense. And like these games were played so far apart, but Iowa State comes into Mackey, beats Purdue really, really, really badly on the day that we won the Big Ten championship, notably. And Michigan just got beat by Purdue in the Big Ten championship. So my brain tells me Iowa State Big Ten slayer.
Interesting.
That's what I think.
Okay. I mean, I also had Michigan, Iowa State, but I had Michigan.
I originally had Michigan, and then I changed it for the vibes because I didn't like that many 1 seeds in my Final Four.
I respect your like aesthetic attention to that because I find it ugly to just have 1 seed. I don't have all 1 seeds. I have Houston in it.
Houston.
Yes. But you have a 1, a 2, a 1, and a 2.
Oh yeah, I'm so much better. I picked 1s and 2s.
Really edgy, Grace. Jeez.
Oh my God.
They're like the indie rock band of bracket pickers. But I think it's probably a reasonable thing. And this is where you can have teams kind of coming out of nowhere. But I feel like the teams that are paired up in a way where that might happen, like it's the wrong teams. It's kind of like it's the same sort of thing we have in the first round where all the real good first round upset candidates are not playing teams that they can easily upset.
No. The bracket has set itself up very well for the high seeds.
So let's look at your Final Four. So you would have Duke taking on Houston, and you would have Arizona taking on Iowa State.
Yes.
Your championship game and your champion then.
Duke, Arizona. Not trendy because it's 2 1s, which is stupid. But I have Arizona.
Okay. I have Duke, Arizona as well.
Yeah, not trendy.
And I also have Arizona. Yes.
Oh, okay, good. We're on the same page, which means we're probably wrong.
Almost certainly.
If
yes.
we were both thinking this way.
Yeah. I will say, because that is a little bit dull, if you were going to do an off-the-board national championship pick, so let's say just none of the teams that we picked to make the Final Four. If there was one team that like calls to you, but you just can't quite get them there, who would it be?
Arkansas.
Okay, explain why.
I don't know. I just see like Acuff having a generational run. That's it. That was my first random thought. Like maybe Vandy, also another like off the wall pick.
Okay. I think, yeah, if I had to go with one that was a bit off the board, and I mean they weren't that off the board given that I had them in my Elite Eight, but I wouldn't be shocked this year if I'm looking at them now here.
Are you going to say Gonzaga?
Yeah, I was going to say Gonzaga, because I mean the concern with them is that they're not as good on offense as I would like to see, but I do think that defensively they're really good and they've got a shot. The team that I'm most intrigued by, but I don't trust enough to actually put any money on, would be, you want to guess?
Oh no, I'm like looking at KenPom right now to see who you could possibly be talking about. I don't know.
Illinois.
I was thinking that because they're 7th in KenPom right now.
They're 7th in KenPom. They're 2nd in the country in offensive efficiency. And they just shoot so well.
Yep. Great size, athleticism.
Right. And you look at what they've done this year, and you mentioned this, like they beat Purdue on the road, they beat Nebraska on the road. But and then like they lost to Michigan State in overtime. They lost to Wisconsin in overtime. They lost to Wisconsin again in overtime. They lost to UCLA in overtime. It feels like they might actually be a little underseeded. And you look at their track that they would have to go in the South, and it's like they could outshoot Houston really easily. They could probably beat Florida if they hit shots. But it's hard to trust them, not just because of this year, but I can't get what happened to them in the tournament against UConn a couple of years ago out of my head, where they let up like a 30-some point run. What was that? I want to go back and look at this because
they also have the point that we were talking about with like elite guard play, where you have someone like Keaton Wagler that can go off for 40-something points.
It was a 33-2 run that UConn put on them in Yeah. So that's where I have a lot of trust issues with Illinois.
I'm sure fans agree with you.
but I do think they have all the stuff that's on paper that you would need to get and like make a magical run to the national title. They've got it.
Yeah. They've got all the Balkans.
They do. Yes. But
all 5 of
them. And a guy from Indiana.
2 guys from Indiana. 2 guys from Indiana. Arizona transfer from Champaign randomly. They've got all the ingredients.
Well, it should be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. Now, for Thursday, is it like availability that you're covering that day? And then like, how do you consume the tournament while also covering it?
That's a great question. Tomorrow, so Thursday, is all the practice times, and then the coaches and players have their media availabilities. So getting like video of them practicing, because we obviously can't shoot the games with CBS regulations, and then getting interviews in the locker room. Probably be busier, I would say, Thursday with like just work constantly than I will with the games on Friday. So I don't know. We have to see how I'm going to tackle working and watching these games.
You just carry around an iPad that's just got a quad box.
I actually will probably do that.
I think that's the way to do it, because you can't do it on your phone because
it's not big enough
for work, and you also have to be able to text people. Like I have to send you like messages talking about how our picks are not working properly.
Yes. So no, I need to charge the iPad. Thank you for reminding me.
I just figured figured I could nudge you along that direction. Charge it while you're at the zoo.
Yes, I will.
All right. Well, it's always a wonderful time of the year, these first 4 days of the tournament. And we will be back next week to talk about what happened during these first 4 days of the tournament. Grace, I hope you have a lovely time covering what is a really intriguing sub-regional across 2 different regionals. It should be a lot of fun for you.
Looking forward to it. Well, for Galen Clavio, and I'm Grace Ybarra. This has been CrimsonCast. We will see you next week. Stay never daunted.